Hey guys, I'm Jonas. Today we're going to be going over our new sway bar kits for your Yamaha G29. This new sway bar kit was designed to work on the 2007 to 2016 Yamaha Drive models. Now those are also commonly referred to as a G29. Now this kit will work on the gas and the electric models. Now the primary purpose of installing this sway bar kit on your G29 is to help correct body roll and instability issues after installing a lift kit on your cart. Now we currently have this available for the 6-inch lifts, but we also will have it out for the 3-inch lifts as well. Now if your cart has a 4 or a 5-inch or even an 8-inch lift kit, you can still make this kit work with your cart by just making a few modifications. But we'll get into more on that later in this video. Now for those of you that are unfamiliar with what a sway bar is or how it works, this sway bar is going to connect to the rear suspension on our cart. In this case, we're going to be bolting it to the engine cradle and then using the links to connect it up to the frame of the cart. So it's basically connecting your rear suspension to the frame. Now on these carts, they have kind of a bad design that when you lift them, that rear end gets a lot of body roll. The body isn't connected well enough to the rear suspension to keep it nice and level. Now in the past, to correct this issue, people have always recommended installing stiffer springs on your rear shocks. Now basically what you're doing by installing a stiffer spring is just trying to get rid of all suspension travel. Those springs are so stiff that you're just making the cart rigid. So it basically has no suspension, and that helps keep the body from being able to move because the suspension can't move. But by instead installing a sway bar and letting the suspension still move with the original springs, the sway bar is going to help keep that body from rolling in one way or another away from the rear suspension. So your rear axle is going to try to stay parallel with the ground. But when you take a sharp corner or you get to jerking back and forth on the road, what you're feeling is the body rolling or swaying from side to side while the axle is still flat with the ground. Installing a sway bar is going to help counteract that body roll. So as one side of the body goes up and the other one goes down, the sway bar is going to try to get back to a neutral position. It wants to stay in a flat neutral position. So one side of the body goes up, the other side goes down. The sway bar is going to twist and try to pull it back down to its neutral position. So no matter which way it goes up or down, the sway bar is constantly working to try to keep the body nice and level. But when your suspension just goes up and down, like you just go over a bump, the sway bar doesn't do anything. It allows that suspension to still work just like it needs to. It only comes into play when you get body roll, when that body is going a different direction than what the rear axle is. To design this new sway bar kit, we teamed up with an automotive sway bar manufacturer. Now this wasn't just some piece of steel that we bent into a U and said, yeah, this will fit on your cart. We actually did the calculations to determine, based off of the size and the weight of the cart and our suspension travel, how long the arms needed to be on the sway bar, the length of it, the diameter of it, and this is made out of a solid piece of spring steel. So this is going to hold up for the life of the cart. You're not going to have to worry about this cracking and breaking from stress and fatigue over time. This is going to last for as long as your cart lasts. Now to install these kits, we tried to keep it as simple as we possibly could. So the only tools that you're going to need to install this kit will be a drill with a 3/8 inch drill bit, a tape measure, and a set of 9/16 inch wrenches. Now to install this kit on your cart, you can do this by yourself, but it does make it a little easier if you have an extra set of hands or a clamp to help hold things in place while you get it bolted up. Now, if you're working on a gas-powered cart, you're going to have a bar that runs across the cradle from one side to the other. Now, we're going to be mounting our bracket directly below this bar. Now, if you have an electric cart, you're not going to have this bar, and you'll just be making some measurements from the front side of the cradle to the front of the mounting bracket. To start installing this mounting bracket, we need to install our U-bolts from the top side of the cradle coming down into the bracket. This is where it's handy to have either a clamp or an extra set of hands on the other side of the cart to help hold this bracket in place. Now, one of the U-bolts is going to go in front of this crossbar and the other U-bolt will go behind it. Once we've got our bracket roughly in place, we can now install a washer and a nut on the inside post of both U-bolts. Now, on the outer post of those U-bolts is where we're going to be installing the bracket for our sway bar. So we only want to install washers and nuts on the inside two posts for now. Next, we can install the bushings around our sway bar along with the mounting bracket. Then we can move our sway bar up into place and install a washer and a lock nut on the other two posts of the U-bolt on either side. You do need to make sure that your bracket is even from side to side. Now, when measuring from the front of the cradle to the front lip of the bracket, you should be right around 11 3/4 inches. Now, we do want to be careful to tighten these nuts down evenly. So you should end up with about the same amount of thread sticking out of each nut on the U-bolts. Now, the next thing we need to do is mark and drill the hole in the frame to install our upper mounting bracket. Now, to do this, we're going to be measuring off of our floor pan mounting bracket. Just use a tape measure to measure 2.5 inches back from the mounting bracket, and then we'll measure up 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of the frame. Now, you may be lucky enough to have a small enough drill and a short drill bit that you may be able to get in there and drill that hole as it is. But if you don't, the only thing that's in our way is this outer rocker panel. And I'm going to show you a fairly easy way that we can pull this rocker panel out far enough to be able to get our drill bit in there. Is to just remove the plastic push pin that's just on the inside of our body. Now, on the battery side, you can get to that push pin pretty easily by just reaching down from under the seat end right behind the battery. Now, on the other side where your gas tank is at, it's easiest to remove your inner fender well and reach in from underneath of the fender to get to that push pin. Now, there's just two push pins on that inner fender well that you can pull out and pull that fender back out of your way and then be able to reach in to get to that push pin. Now, once you've got that push pin removed, you just need to unhook your bottom mounting tab. Now, it's basically just a tab that sticks in with a hole in it and a stud that sticks down, and that hole is up over the stud. So if you just grab on either side of that mounting tab and pull down and out, you should be able to pop it right off. Now that we've got our tabs unhooked, you can easily pull this rocker panel back out of the way to get your drill up in there. Now, you do want to make sure when you're drilling that 3/8 hole through the frame that you keep your drill bit nice and straight. You don't want to be forwards or backwards or up or down. Just drill nice and straight through the frame rail. But you do need to be cautious about what is behind the frame rail on the other side. So when your drill bit breaks through the other side, you don't stab into something right behind it. Now, one trick that I've used when installing these is to just put a wooden block behind the frame. So that way when your drill comes through the frame, it just hits the wooden block and doesn't damage anything behind. Next, we'll be installing our upper mounting bracket to the frame rail using the bolt, washers, and lock nuts provided in the kit. The lower L section of the mounting bracket with the larger hole will be facing towards the center of the cart. Now we can install our connecting links. It is important to install all the hardware for these links in the correct order. You're first going to start with a bolt and a washer with the bushing coming up through the bottom of the sway bar mounting hole. Then install another bushing and washer, then the center spacer along with the washer and the next bushing. Now we can install the link through the hole on our mounting bracket. Then we'll install our last bushing, washer, and the lock nut. When tightening down our link bolt, you just want to tighten the bolt down far enough that the threads of the bolt just start to protrude through the top of the lock nut. Now you can tighten the mounting bolt for your upper bracket. Now you can repeat this process on the other side. You do need to apply 1 to 2 pumps of some multi-purpose grease to each of the 2 grease zerks. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if your cart has a different size lift kit on it, if you've got a 4 or a 5 inch or even an 8 inch lift kit, you can make some adjustments to this kit to still make it work. Now, the goal that we're going for is to make 2 90-degree angles. So from our sway bar arm to our mounting link, we want that to make a 90-degree angle. And then same thing at the top. From our frame rail to the mounting link, we want another 90-degree angle. So whatever size lift your cart has, you could adjust that angle by making this center spacer either longer or shorter. So either, if you have a 4-inch lift, you would probably want to buy the kit for a 6-inch lift, and then you could shorten that spacer down, just cut some off of it. But if you have more of a lift, say you've got an 8-inch lift, then you would want to buy the 6-inch lift and maybe add some washers or spacers in on top of this existing spacer to get your 2 90-degree angles. Now, once you've figured out how long that spacer needs to be, then you would just have to go to your local hardware store and buy the appropriate length bolt to fit whatever that measurement is now. Now, you can't have too long of a bolt or it could come in contact with our frame rail. So the bolt really has to be just the right length to where it just protrudes through the top of our lock nut. Now, to go along with those modifications, you may need to change where the bolt hole is in the frame rail, depending on what size of lift you have and where that cradle is actually at. You can go ahead and bolt the sway bar and the bracket to your cradle and then just pre-assemble this whole linkage setup with the bracket on top. Tighten the bolt down just a little bit so you can kind of see where that bracket actually needs to be on your frame rail to keep our 2 90-degree angles as close as we possibly can. Now, they don't have to be perfect 90-degree angles, but the closer you can get them to 90, the better the kit is going to work. Now, we are still working on some other products to help improve the ride quality and the handling on these G29s, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. But installing this sway bar kit and doing a proper alignment on your cart is a huge step in the right direction. So if you guys want to check out these sway bar kits, we do have them available on our website at powerequipmentman.com, and I'll leave a link for them in the description down below. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. If you got some good value out of this video, please hit that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.